Welcome. Good morning and good afternoon. So wonderful to see you all. What we are attempting, what we are discussing, what we are. I'm going to remove my headphones, so if you cannot hear me, you can tell me, okay? I guess you can all hear me well. Thank you, Gary. So what we are attempting, what we are experiencing, what we are living, what basically what we are attempting in a way, I think it's maybe a good word. It's quite something exceptional because as pervasive as the world of this daily mind can be, internally we have a very clear, a very clear sense that is just a superficial layer. No, some of you were discussing, the COVID, the this, the that, moving here, moving there, and which is our day to day, and it's the things that obviously we have to discuss, and the important things. Yet we do all these things because internally we know that we can feel better, we can experience better, we can grow more, we can understand deeper this whole thing that we call life. So why I say this is quite incredible, this attempt, is because it's so pervasive, yeah, that to an aspect of ourselves, and this is why one of the topics today was moving from chores to fun. So it's extremely pervasive, the day to day, the things that we have to do, the amount of responsibilities we have. I see it on myself. No, like you have a family. Well, I think most of you have a family of some sort, and you have all the responsibilities, all the bills, all the the mortgages, all the rents, all the whatever it is. And yet, even within all these responsibilities, that we often can bring us down because of the emergency, the urgency of so many things we need to do. There's this constant presence that reminds us that life is extremely exquisite, extremely beautiful. Even within all the situations, like I know, some of you have been having law situations, court situations, divorces, whatever it is. Some of you have been moving from back forth. There's all these constant demands, which are very can be extremely exhausting. And yet, internally, and this is where the word attempt comes, we have this very clear sense that even as convoluted as it can be, as as uncertain as it can be, even in the midst of a situation like this, pandemic, whatever it is, you have so many shades to it. Internally, we have this certainty that the foundation, the essence of life is this pure, awakened, blissful, loving experience. This is something that I have observed over the years, and even people who are doing things to harm themselves or that harm themselves, people who are going through addictions, people who are trying to make a livelihood out of things that will end up badly, anybody all the time is actually trying to connect with this profound sense of bliss, this profound sense of well-being that we intuit, that we know that is the essence of life, is life itself. So this fantastic attempt that we are doing, it's extremely profound because it breaches these both levels that we were talking last week, 2 weeks, at some point we're talking on, we've talked about it several times, how to bridge these two realities, this relative reality that we call, which is the reality of day to day, of, you know, going to work and taking the kids to school, and or, you know, whatever your day to day is. Some of you are retired, so, you know, different kind of day to day, but still your day to day, you know. It's like, and this more profound absolute nature of reality, where everything is perfectly and delightful, and where really nothing needs to be done. So that's really the it's almost like the big contradiction, the big funny thing. I don't know what the word would be in English, because we have this intense need, we feel so intensely compelled to do so much. And at the same time, something inside of us knows that really there's no gain, no loss. There's really nothing that can be accomplished in this life but an awakening, you know. And so this is extremely important. I try to keep this in mind all the time. You know, like you know, like most of you, in my own way, I have a busy life, you know, and busyness pretty much all the time can get the best out of you, unless you are very, very, very aware, you know, very, very aware. So this idea of moving from chores to fun, from chores to relishing, from chores to just resting in this nature of well-being, it's really at the key of all healing, of all meditation, of all really well-being, because even well-being, even the attempt of well-being can become a chore. Even the attempt of resting can become a chore. Sometimes, you know, I finish at the office, and maybe Missy's here now. I don't see everybody, but, you know, and sometimes we do finish quite a bit late. You know, it's 8, you know, 8:15. Sometimes if we have a, you know, so by the time I get home, and you know, so you have some dinner, you take a shower, you kind of rest a few minutes, whatever, and I see this part of myself like wanting to rest quick, because I have to like get up in the morning again and go to, and I say, how peculiar, you know, that one would want to rest quick, you know, so can go to do more things, you know. So I observe this on myself all the time. I observe how like the line between relishing this incredible experience of life in a human body within our potential, it's just one single, like very thin layer, to become like the worst of all chores, you know. So as we start our practice today, I just wanted to bring this to your attention, you know, that really the essence of what we are doing, the essence of our attempt, this super brave, courageous, mischievous attempt, you know, because the mind has this aspect that doesn't like to be brought down in gears, you know, because sometimes what we are talking, it's really a matter of slowing down a fraction of a second. I see myself, sometimes I'm walking towards the car, and I just slow down like a fraction of a second. Oh, you know, anything that I'm doing, I slow down a fraction of a second. I always, when I'm at the office, which, you know, obviously there's, I think it's also interesting, many of us have this reality that when we are doing things for others, or, you know, others, we're responsible for others, those moments we tend to be much more mindful, you know, of the virtuous actions, you know. And when we're just by ourselves, we kind of tend to relax a bit more in the, not that we relax on the standards, but there's a different kind of responsibility. So when I'm at the office, one of my main practices before I open any door, you know, we have 2 treatment rooms, you know, many of you have been there, and they are side to side. So before I enter a room, to see, you know, how the person is there, or to start working on them, I hold the handle of the door, and this happens in a second. So, you know, if you're out there looking, you might not notice, but, and I just make sure, okay, I'm present, I'm clear, I'm loving. So this is extremely important. How can we maintain this sense of bliss, this sense of joy, this sense of this awakened loving heart, which, you know, often we call just the divine, in our day-to-day, with whatever that day-to-day is? So that's a question that you don't have to answer now, but it's a question that I would like everybody to really reflect, take note, and see, because we come, we practice, we get together, you know, here or wherever you go to your yoga class, or you know, the other meditation groups that you might participate, and you are there, or you read some nice, you know, inspirational text, or you see a quote in Facebook, many of these things. Okay? And for those moments, for those minutes, for that time period, you just feel this deep, profound connection, this understanding, this insight, all these things. Okay. And as soon as you know, close the book, as soon as you close your phone, as soon as you walk towards the car, it's almost like it never had happened, you know? So we're constantly back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, between these two realities, in a way that can actually become quite frustrating, because we know, yet we don't stabilize. We experience, yet then it gets dissolved. So it's a little bit like maybe 2 or 3 sessions ago, the example was given of having water boil. Okay, so it's almost like, you know, you put the water to boil, and as soon as you start seeing the first bubbles, you turn it off. You know, and then you say, "Oh, I love water to boil," and then you turn it off, and then you turn it off. So this is extremely important. So whatever it is that you are doing, is it a chore? If it is a chore, it's not the absolute reality. If it's a chore, that sense of wakeful love, it's probably not there, you know. Now, if it's fun, or if there's a sense of joy, or there's a sense of relishing, or you just feel present, you know. So, you know, every occasion is different, but if you have a sense of presence, of this being very aware, very present, so now it's when you start bridging those two aspects of absolute reality and a relative, or, you know, this more divine reality and the reality of day-to-day that transcends, that not transcends, that dissolves when we die. The idea is, how can we experience ourselves and everything we experience in day-to-day as the divine, everything we see, every perception, every feeling, every thought, every object. So there's 4 things that I would like to address today. We're going to read this text in the book that says The Seamless Wave. It's one of my favorite parts of the book, so we'll read it now, and then first we'll do a practice. Observing how others breathe. It's also very beneficial. So we'll discuss that, and then this idea of the 3 levels of listening, in a way that I put in the syllables. I put entering divine time, which basically comes down to one's experience of presence. Where is it that your awareness is focused? And how is it that your awareness, is it very vast, or is it very contracted? This week has been interesting. Every week is interesting in its own way, but this week I had you know, several conversations, especially one beautiful conversation with somebody about what I would summarize as, how can we raise our own standards for ourselves? And you know, as far as I can tell, what I know from, you know, and many of you, those of you that I know personally, I think you all have very good standards, worldly standards. You're very successful at what you've done in many ways. You're good people. You have a good heart. So my not challenge, my suggestion to you is to really raise the standards to the highest possible level, is to set up conditions, set up the motivation, and then set it up in ways that you are reminded of how to sustain a mindful, a wakeful state of mind throughout the day. That's really the standard of standards. Because when your mind, it's just not mindful, like you can be mindful of something that you're doing, you can be drinking tea, and you can be very, very mindful of drinking the tea, So this is a different kind of mindfulness. That's what, I often we use the word wakefulness. And, Choki Nyima Rinpoche, one of my dearest teachers, he actually says, call it kindfulness. Okay? So the idea is like how to transform your life from a chore that you are doing somehow willingly, into a flow of blissful fun. So this aspect of wakefulness is very important because you can be doing something, and then there's a constant thing that you're not comparing, but you're aware of. Like some of you, have heard classical Indian music, for example, and on the background there's always this drone, the Tempura. Okay, sometimes we use the Tempura. This is his instrument. Sometimes we use when we're doing the mantras or the prayers. Yeah. So this is something that the musician, the singer, or the sitarist, whatever it is, it's always in the background of one's mind, and the notes are comparing, the notes are integrating, the notes are creating microtones. The Tempura has 2 notes, for example, only, but the combination of those 2 notes with the note that the singer, for example, is making creates a whole vast array of notes. So I'm saying this because I observe myself, and you get up and you start doing things, and very often things are just done as a chore. Okay, not in a bad way, but you have to do this, you have to do that, and then there's this wakefulness that takes over for a moment, and then there's a sense of softening, and then naturally there's this sense of inner bliss that starts pouring out. Oh. So this is my my suggestion to you, almost my challenge. You can take it as a challenge. If you are very competitive, take it as a challenge. Now you're going to make it a chore also. Even in moments in when you might be tired, even in moments, how can I relish my being? Doing anything that needs to be done. How can I relish my experience of the moment with whatever the moment presents? And why is this extremely important? This is extremely important because whatever is happening is your life. Somebody came a few days ago to the clinic, and they were very sad because something had happened in their lives that was out of control, and they were feeling sad of that, and of course things happen that make you sad. There's no. So after some minutes of conversation, really it comes down to this. It's like, okay, this happened. Do you enjoy being sad? No. Okay. So what are you going to do about it? Because this is your life. Yeah. And I know this is obvious. All of you know this. I know this. but anything that comes into your experience is your life. And you can see it as something wrong that happens and wrestle with it, or you can just connect with the sense of bliss and take that as the stepping stone for what comes next. So the idea of raising your standards, of moving from chores to fun, is, again, goes back to what we have discussed, pretty much every time, is like how deliberate, how intentional you can be about choosing how you interpret whatever you're going through, and that's really where all our freedom comes down to and lays down to, because the world is in constant flux. Like pretending that the world is going to provide steady sources of joy and happiness is like pretending that water is not going to get you wet, because the nature of the world is changed. The world is like wind. It's like, it's the nature of life is constant flux. So like my kid, my son, he's eating a lollipop and he's so happy at the beginning, and towards the end he realizes, oh, this is finishing, this is over, and they are not going to give me another one, this is finito, So that's the nature of this reality, So I know all of this, you know this, because I mean, you are very wise, and I know this. I also know that if I sustain this wakefulness of how I'm feeling, what I'm doing, how I'm relating, how I'm combining these both things, and I've sustained this mindfulness of experiences that I've had in my practice or realizations, I know that very often there's the note is not matching. Okay, so this goes down again to this idea of the 3 levels of listening. We'll go back to this later, but it's not just listening with the ear. Like the idea of listening is like really you are observing this life that you have, and how can I keep connecting it? How can I keep bringing it back? How can I keep putting it back in the context of this divine presence, of this divine being? So one of the best ways of doing that is to establish a regular, obviously, meditation practice. So let's do a little practice right now.